Good morning, and welcome once again to an amazing Sunday. We are excited to worship with you virtually on today, and let me invite you publicly to come and join us at 11:15 a.m. Worship is going to be outstanding. The voices of St. John are going to bless you, and God will certainly be in the house looking to elevate your life. I want to encourage you today to support the stewardship of St. John Church. We are coming to the end of this month of March. It has been good. We have survived an annual conference experience, and we need your support to pull through the rest of this month and go into April, God's favorite month, with an exciting blessing. We want to inform you today that we have a new Cash App that's going to serve us in a more excellent way. We're always looking to improve, and right on the screen, you will see the new Cash App. I need for everyone to make sure that you use this particular Cash App and not another one. Please stay tuned for that Cash App to stay on the screen, and we'll talk to you later. Peace. Good morning and happy Resurrection Sunday. What a wonderful day it is to be alive, to hear birds chirping, to see the sun shining, and beloved, to see it get ready to shine even more. This is a day the Lord has made, and we have every reason to rejoice, particularly on this wonderful day. We celebrate, we affirm that He lives. Christ Jesus lives today. Happy Resurrection Sunday. Thank you so much for your willingness to tune in to what God is up to in this space of your life and this season of your life. It's the resurrection. And I want to say to you, it's good to be with you. It's a joy to come before you. And I want to promise you this truth today. Today is going to be a great day, no matter what is against you. Today is a day where you can stand still and know that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above everything that the world could ever imagine. Watch this, in your life, because today proves a point that God will make a way somehow. Welcome again, and thank you so very much for tuning in with us on this morning. I want to share a word of pastoral information with you. We want to encourage you to give stewardship-wise, definitely. We want to encourage you to use the new Cash App. We'd had a challenge that we had to deal with, so we're having to use a new Cash App on today, and I need for you to be aware of that. I'm going to put that on the screen for you at this time. So in your act of giving, please use the new Cash App. It's on the screen at this time. Take your time, take a picture of it. Want to make sure that you get in the habit of using the new Cash App. We are grateful for the way that God is moving, and we even look forward to adding a different venue so that you can not only just have Cash App, but that you may use Vimo or other Giblify, other ways to do this as well. Once again, I want to thank you so very much for joining us on today. I want to encourage you to give. This is a special Sunday. Give an offering unto the Lord. Your tithe, yes, but give a resurrection offering. Trust God on this wonderful day with something that you want. I want to ask you to plant a seed with me. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to plant a seed with me with an offering that you want God to resurrect. You give it, planting the seed. And as you give it today, electronically or in person when you come at 11:15, I want you to be prepared to drop that seed, planting it, and let God resurrect it in the season that you need most. Join me planting this seed, and let God be the resurrection in the seed you plant at the right time. Would you join me in doing that, please? Just an offering, a seed offering, and as you give it, you can put on there seed offering of resurrection, which means you are planting this, trusting God with this, so that you plant and God will resurrect and have even more than you ever imagined. Thank you so very much for this pastoral word or information I want to share with you. Now let's go to God in prayer as we prepare to receive the word from God on this Resurrection Sunday. God, we want to pause, inviting you into our sacred space. Wherever we are, will you transform it into a sanctuary that we might be able to glorify you, to strengthen you, to keep you. We are certainly blessed by your presence in the life of so many others who've gone before us. We're inviting you in this moment to be the very same presence in the life that we're living. Speak to us in this resurrection message. Use this, your servant. May the ears of the people hear. May the eyes of the heart see. The resurrection is in their life as well. We bless your name. We thank you and we give you praise. In Jesus' name, we ask and invite you to come. Speak to us, Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you so very much. Let's tune in to the word at this time. The scripture today on Resurrection Sunday 2024 is found in the Gospel of Mark chapter 16. And in Mark chapter 16, I want to share with you the original text of the resurrection story down through the years. Mark 16 verses 1 through 8 is where we will find our footing on today. When the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, Salome, brought spices so that they might go and anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb, and they were saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance of the tomb?" And looking up, they saw that the stone had been rolled back. It was very large. And entering the tomb, they saw a young man sitting on the right side, dressed in a white robe, and they were alarmed. And he said to them, "Do not be alarmed. You seek Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him. But go, tell his disciples and Peter that he is going before you to Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." And they went out and fled from the tomb, for trembling and astonishment had seized them. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. Amen. This wonderful morning, I invite your attention on this very unique and amazing Sunday. I invite your attention to this text from the subject, Scenes of a Resurrection. Scene of a Resurrection. My brothers and sisters, let me say on the onset that everyone knows after 2,000 years how this story unfolds. There is absolutely nothing new that I could tell you that you haven't heard about this particular passage of scripture or any of the four that has been told in the gospel narratives. The only thing I ask is that you would pray for this preacher to try to share something insightful that may strengthen you as we walk through the pages of this ancient and wonderful story. Today, I want to invite you to join me and take a look at the scenes of the resurrection. Whenever in life something traumatic happens, such as an accident or car wreck, there are people that approach the scene of that particular incident, and they began to observe certain things. Some observed the tire markings, some observed the vehicles, some observe the persons and how they are responding to the trauma that is unfolded before their very eyes or that they have experienced. When life has an altering experience, we are often aware of what takes place because of the scene of the experience. When the birth of a child comes, there are certain things we remember about the scene. When there is a promotion or a win or some kind of milestone reached, people often remember the scenes of that milestone. They remember the scenes of the experience, and they are etched into the memory visibly and mentally of the people who are going through them. And beloved, the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth is no different. Each of the Gospels paints a picture of the scenes for the communities that they are writing to. I need you to understand that the people that hear the word of Mark for the first time are different than you and I in some ways. The people that hear the Gospel of Luke have a different bend and circumstance than those in Mark. The people that hear Matthew's gospel and its resurrection narrative are different. They have a different desire. They have different needs. And so Matthew and Mark and Luke paint pictures. They describe the scenes of the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth. They have to describe the scenes and describe the incident in ways that reach the people that they are ministering to, that they are sharing this historic event with. It's so vital, beloved, that you understand the scenes of this resurrection is geared to minister to the people that were listening and looking to hear the details of such an experience like this. Mentioning Mark, Luke, and Matthew is slightly different than the people who were at the scenes of the Gospel of John. John's narrative is different because the people were different and the scene description they needed was different. And so, beloved, while all of the Gospels have a unique reason for the way they write, for the style that they write, and for the details they lift or leave out, I need you to remember that we're blessed because we have 4 of them, and they describe different ways of seeing the scene of the resurrection. And this morning, I want you to know that beyond any other thing I can do is to just describe the scene. And maybe we will find something amazing that God speaks to us in this moment. Look at the scenes. Mark's crowd is unique. It's an oral crowd, so they are hearing this orally. It's made of people who were on the fringes of society. And I don't know about you, but there are enough of us who are looking and listening that in some way are on the fringe, the edge, the margin of the society we are living in. I've been amazed lately as people are trying to suggest family, the income and the way that those who are in the middle class live. There are articles and there are descriptions that suggests that in order to be called middle class, in order to be called upper middle class or lower middle class, then the money you make and how you live and what you encompass and the debt you have to be in a certain range. Well, beloved, the writer of Mark is addressing a certain range of people, and they are in the margin. They don't have certain things that the privileged have. They are looking for how God can meet them in their margin and lift them above the limit of what they have to reach the goals that they believe God has for them. Is that where you are this morning? Are you in the limitations? Have you extended yourself in places and ways that nobody quite gets, but you can't go any further? You can't seemingly find another way to make it out. I've come to tell you that this scene of a resurrection is so vital, or the scenes of the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth can help you watch God move in your life. I want you to remember that. Here, Mark describes that on the first day of the week, it was very early. Something traumatic had just taken place. I want to pause and let you know that what is around the scene of the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth is most important. The first thing, I want you to acknowledge and beware of the grief that is present. There is grief around the scene of the resurrection. And beloved, we don't like to spend time dealing with grief, but grief doesn't just mean loss of life. In the instance of Jesus of Nazareth, it is right there. The scene of the loss of a loved one, the scene of the loss of someone that transformed the lives of those who they were connected to is very real. But I've discovered in the lives that we live, it's not just the loss of a person, family, it can be the loss of so much more. Grief is at the scene of the resurrection. Grief is at the scene because it's a loss. It's a loss of something that is so vital and important. And I've got to ask this question. Are you in a season of loss? Are you in a season of losing? I want to be clear with you. I want to be honest with you. I want to invite you to join me at the scene of the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth. There's grief, and that grief is overwhelming. Do you know what grief is? Do you know how to describe, how to articulate grief? Have you ever attempted to articulate in definition what grief is? It's anguish first. It's anguish at losing. It's anguish at losing someone or something meaning and valuable to you. Beloved, have you ever experienced anguish at losing? Anguish at losing, watch this, something you won't get to redo, something that will never show up or respond in a different way. It's different. Sometimes we lose at work one week when we're trying to get a task done. But if we're privileged by God to live, we will get a chance in the following week to do it again. That's a different type of feeling. Grief is the anguish we feel and experience, get this, when we lose something that cannot return. Oh, my brother and sister. We often identify things that cannot return through the loss of life of a loved one. But I don't know about you, but the truth is we lose time. We lose more than just the death of a loved one. We lose time. There are moments that we lose. There are relationship that we lose. And beloved, believe it or not, there are times in life that we live where certain aspects of life will not return and we lose them. And there's a bit of anguish that overwhelms our life. There's a bit of anguish that grips us. And that anguish, family, guess what? It has a way of impacting and affecting us. The disciples and the women who are lifted in the text experience grief. As a matter of fact, it's just not them. But if you learned anything about the grief and loss experience of Jewish people in the first century when Jesus walked and talked and experienced physical life on the earth, you will understand something about the grieving process. It was long, but it was an attempt to help those who were impacted by the loss of life of a loved one to grapple with it, to walk with it. Jesus was crucified, lynched. And as he was lynched, it was a public display of a government believing that it must flex its muscle and power. It was a political statement of people who were in government and political power attempting, family, to flex their muscle and to show this kind of thing will not be tolerated. This is the point of the crucifixion. They were attempting to put down a mounting revolt of God through Jesus the Christ on earth, attempting to make equality real. Jesus is killed on one hand for attempting to equalize life for those who were at the fringe and the margin of society. Take a little time because I need you to see the impact of it. He is killed, lynched, made public display of what can happen to anyone who attempts to equalize society. I want to pause and say to each one of us that we must be aware that there are going to be consequences in life for trying to make wrong right. There are going to be consequences in life for you stepping up, using your voice and the power and the life that God has gifted you with to try to equalize some things that are unjust. You will be, in text, crucified when you attempt to speak truth to the power that continues to avoid people, that continues to put down those who are in need and lift up those who are already taken care of. You will experience not just a Puffy or P. Diddy or Sean Combs experience where they invade what you think is yours and your money and your name cannot stop it. There's even more that will take place. Grief shows up at the scene of the resurrection. It shows up because people are remembering what it was like to experience Jesus of Nazareth being crucified. Have you ever seen someone executed? Have you ever seen someone that you love go through experiences that lead them to death? Some of us have seen loved ones die. Some of us have seen the slow experience of loved ones leave us. Some of us have been a part of watching people we love in the hospice experience decline. Have you been there? Have you seen a loved one who has always been strong, always been up and moving, always been vital and engaging? Have you seen their health decline? And you've seen them move from being able to walk on their own to hardly being able to stand and move out of a bed or a chair. They experienced Jesus, who was at one point healing sick, restoring sight to blind, touching those who were down and lifting them higher, even giving life to dead situations, people and children. They had seen him feeding people and performing activities that had not been seen before. And now they had seen that leave him, and they'd seen Jesus beaten to death. They'd seen him whipped. They'd seen him smacked. They'd seen blood moving from his face. They'd seen him with thorns on his head. They had seen him take lacerative marks across his back. They'd seen him holler and moan. They had seen him kicked, and they'd seen people gambling, yes, over his clothing. How would that impact you to see someone that you love? It would grip you with grief. It would overwhelm you. And may I be honest, in the time that we live now, if we're honest, grief is all around us. Grief, the loss. And if I may pause and invite you into my world, I would like you to know that there is something in the atmosphere of our world now, something in the atmosphere of the United States where grief is just running rampant. And the people of God aren't sure how to manage it. Well, the scene of the resurrection might tell us how. Grief, I need you to recognize, is not on a timetable. And what the women that come to the tomb early in the morning reveal to us is that they are actually doing something that is uncustomary. Jesus Christ had been crucified, dead, and in the grave, in the tomb. And things, according to the Jewish heritage and the Jewish tradition of death, had been taken care of. The family had been fed. Mary and his siblings had already been eaten. They'd already eaten. People had come by and stopped and fellowshiped with them and encouraged them as best they could. And life was supposed to return to normal, or as I like to say, a new normal. This is what took place. But beloved, and that early morning on the first day of the week, Sunday, the record is recorded that 3 approached walking to see Jesus. In that way, they were going to perform the last act that they could for their loved one before certain things took place. They were headed there to take care of his body one last time. Can you imagine what they might have been thinking? Can you imagine as they were moving toward the grave of Jesus, the tomb, what kind of conversations they may have had? Anything might have been on their mind, trying to avoid family, what they knew they were going to do. Like you try to encourage people, don't you, when grief hits them? You try to take their mind away from the pain of what they are experiencing. You try to change the trajectory of what their mind focuses on. But when grief is upon you, I'd like to tell you it's hard, because grief has a way of attempting to get us to face the reality that cannot be avoided. And the mind begins, family, to replay the events of what has taken place in an effort to get you to embrace the reality reality that this has just taken place. Is there anybody who knows what I'm talking about? The replay of the events that have taken place in life where you have lost had continually play in your mind. And no matter how you try to get around it, no matter how you try to talk over it, no matter how you try to talk around it, grief continues to manifest the painful reality that what you think you saw is real. On the way there, just talking about the scenes, on the way there, they converse one with another, and someone, we aren't sure who. We don't know if it was Mary or if it was Salome. We don't know who spoke the word. But something on the way to the tomb caused one of them to speak out and to say, who will roll the stone away? The reality that they were facing hit them. Not only had Jesus been crucified and died and was buried in a tomb, also, the reality is we are about to approach this place, and there's some things we won't be able to physically do for ourselves. I want to pause and let you know that around the scene of resurrection in all of our lives, certainly what happens at the resurrection scene of Jesus of Nazareth, we will have something come to us that will remind you and me that there are some things in this life that we will not be able to do for ourselves. Maybe you're in that season now. Maybe there's a relationship that you cannot fix for yourself. Maybe there is a circumstance, a mistake, a mishap that has taken place in life that you cannot fix it and move, watch this, move it for yourself. Maybe you're in a season where you want to replay and redo and have a do-over. But life and the reality that we live reminds us on a constant basis, there is no going back. There is only moving forward. And as you think about, I wished I had done this differently. I wished I had said this. I wished I had moved here. I wished another moment. I wished, I hoped I couldn't do it. We have to come to grips with around the scene of resurrection, family, that there are some things, as the ladies discover, we cannot do for ourselves. What do you do when you can't do something for yourself? Where do you look? How do you talk? How do you move when you aren't able to do some things for yourself? Can I paint the picture of a scene of a resurrection in your life? Maybe the money is gone. Maybe the credit score is jacked up to the point where you can't restore it. Maybe the words that you shared in anger and disgust for a decision that has impacted you cannot be taken back. Maybe the job title is gone. Maybe the job is gone. Maybe the relationship with the individual, the child, the spouse, the friend, the enemy, the boss, the religious church, maybe the fellowship has been broken and you can't fix it for yourself. There's no words you can give. There is no number of times you can apologize. There is no money you can put on it to cover it up. There is no sense of restoration that you can give yourself. This is the scene of a resurrection. And I don't know about you, but I'm preaching about Jesus's resurrection. But if I have to be honest, there are some times in the lives we are living now where the scenes that have happened about the losses we've experienced look like this. We can't fix it. We can't restore it. We can't do it by ourselves. And we've got to ask, who is going to help us remove what stands between us and the restoration of what we have lost? Do I have any witnesses? You don't make the resurrection of Jesus so distant and so different from what God needs to do in your life right now. What scene unfolds? What can you and I not do for ourselves? But we need someone, somebody to come and roll away a tomb, a stone in front of what has held what we cannot fix ourselves. Who will roll the stone away is what they were talking about. Who will remove it? Because the writer of Mark says it's a large stone. Mark doesn't leave us in the dark on this. Mark lets us know that the tombstone is large. It's larger than what the women can handle. This is not to put the ladies down. This is to encourage you to see that this is a scene in their life, and will parallel a scene in our life where the stone that stands between what has been discarded and what is reviewed as dead that we cannot fix, there is a stone that sits in front of it that's so large we don't have the power, the strength, or the connectivity to move it ourselves. Do you have anything on this Resurrection Sunday that's so large you cannot remove it by yourself? Is there any weight that you carry? Is there any death that holds you back? Is there any traumatic experience that has led you to the point where you cannot push it, you cannot bear it, you cannot remove it, you can't even carry it by yourself? You need someone to come and move the stone. Who will move the stone? Who will roll it away? I've got a question. Who's going to remove the stone that you carry in your life right now? Is it at work? Is it in home front? Is there a stone that you are carrying, and or is there a stone that you're walking toward, but you need some help from some presence to remove it? The scene of a resurrection will have things that you and I cannot do for ourselves. That's all I'm trying to get you to see. And as they approach it, be clear, there is courage at the scene of the resurrection. There's something you can't do for yourself, but there's also courage. Let me speak to you. Whenever there's going to be a resurrection in our life, there must be courage present. Can I speak to you? While there's a situation that they cannot do for themselves, they have the courage to confront it. I'm not sure who you are. I'm not certain what you're facing that seems unmovable. But if there is going to be a formula to remove it, the formula has to have courage to confront it. Beloved, courage is necessary at the scene of any resurrection. Courage. Let the church say courage. Let you muster the strength for what you have to stand boldly and face, and realize courage is necessary. What gives the women who come to the tomb courage that appears not to be present in the disciples who are not there? I want to share this with you. Courage is connected to relationship. They've got a relationship with Jesus, a relationship that is so impactful because He has made a difference in their lives. He has seen something in them. Mary Magdalene knows him according to history because according to history, they say he has cast out forces that were holding her to her past. There ought to be someone in your life that speaks to you and releases you from the forces that have held you in your past. Preach, Pastor. There ought to be a Lord, a God in your life that speaks to you in such a way that no matter what you did in the past, it will not let you stay held by your past. It will free you. I believe God will do that. Jesus of Nazareth has freed Mary. She's there because of what he meant to her. We ought to be present because of what people mean to us. Courage will show up when relationship exists. The courage. What did they need courage for? Because the truth is they needed courage to confront what the disciples were fearing. The men were fearing that what happened to Jesus was going to happen to them. They were fearing that they would be crucified and killed. And they were together in a different place, trying to figure out how they would manage a life after their leader had been snatched from them. They were trying to come up with a game plan. They were working together. And while you run them off and say they are unworthy, let me say they were together doing what we have to do sometimes, regroup ourselves when we experience the trauma in life. We got to regroup. And sometimes you can't do that in the public. You got to pull away in the private. The women, though, had courage because they were together and they were going to be where they had to be with the one whom they love. Let me serve notice very quickly that men and women handle grief differently. The women decided they wanted to be near Jesus' body. The men decided that they would rather be away from it. One is not right and one is not wrong. It's just the way that life and gender and people are. They just handle grief differently. There is no right or wrong way. They just handle it differently. And you need to understand that there are going to be differences in how people choose to handle life and the grief that hits them. And there is no right or wrong way about how we will handle it. Preach, Pastor. Get out of competing. Get out of comparing. Get out of looking at someone else and saying they've handled it better than I could and I need to look like them and move like them. No, what you need to do is be you. The women are walking toward the tomb because they desire to be near him because they believe he's still dead. Here is my point. I'm taking my time this morning. We like in the culture we live in to lift the women who come to the tomb above the men. We like to say if the women hadn't come, we would not have known. No, we don't know that. We don't know how the word about his resurrection would have gotten to the disciples if the women hadn't showed up. Because the truth is, the angel says he's going ahead of them in Galilee. They would have seen him in Galilee. They would have seen him in some of the form. We can't say that. Get off of that. That's capitalism at its best that has crept into the religion of Christianity and decided to divide men and women, all because, excuse me, we want to be valued. The women show up, and this is the truth, and you can't fix it. Hear me. The women show up because they expect him to still be dead. What's the lesson? The scene of resurrection has the women coming to, watch this, administer last rites, if you will, to a dead man named Jesus. They expect him to remain in the tomb. They don't expect him to have resurrected. I want to pause and share with you, as a dear friend of mine often likes to remind me of, Dr. Isom likes to say, God does the unexpected in unexpected ways. They expected Jesus to be in the tomb, dead, even though he had said to them he is resurrecting, even though he had just shared with them that he would have to die, but he was going to be resurrected. They were expecting him to be in the same place. They had what I like to call a misplaced Jesus, and they had messed up their minds because they had placed him in the tomb to remain, and he was not there. And when you and I misplace Jesus, it will mess our minds up. They expected him to be dead. They came with oil and ointment to anoint him as a dead man. They didn't expect him to be resurrected. Get out. That's right. They are no better than the men who struggle to go face it. Grief hits them differently. And when they arrive, here is the joy. God has shown up in an unexpected way. And the way that God has shown up, I love this, is what they thought they couldn't handle has already been removed. A resurrection will always have God doing the unexpected thing in an unexpected way. They didn't know how God was going to have a stone removed. They didn't know if the stone, maybe somebody, maybe a disciple would be there waiting, and he or a couple of them would assist us in removing the stone. Maybe they would show up and help us. Maybe we'll just sit patiently until someone comes to assist us. You ever been around a scene and didn't know what to do, so you just waited? Well, they waited, but I like to tell you, God had already moved. In the scene of a resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth, God had already moved when the children, the women, showed up and had not expected it. I love that about the scene of a resurrection. We can't do some things for ourselves. We will be heavy, but courage will cause us to confront what we don't have the courage initially to confront and the power to remove. And when we show up, that's the key. The key to a resurrection is just to show up. That's why you need to be in the fellowship of the saints. That's why you just need to show up sometimes, and don't worry about how it'll work out. Just know that God will meet us there. They show up with courage on their mind and courage in their heart, and God has removed what they cannot do for themselves. That's the scene of a resurrection. I know what you come to hear. I know, but I want you to know that as you come to hear me say early, as you come to hear the preacher say he died on Friday, didn't he die? I've come to announce to you, and I want to be clear, that the unexpected has taken place. And whenever there's a resurrection, there's got to be an unexpected move of God. And that's what I want to leave you with right now, that in the scene of resurrection, God is looking to do an unexpected thing in an unusual way. Now, here it is. Let me cut across the field. And the fear grips them when they look and see nobody, when they look and see no stone. They may think that someone has robbed Jesus. They may think that someone beat them there and moved the stone and took the body of Jesus Christ. They may think that there has been a grave robber, but there is a messenger sitting there waiting, a young man in a white robe. And the word says he told them, you're looking for Jesus of Nazareth, but he's not here. He has risen as he said he would, and he has gone down the street to Galilee, and he'll meet you there. When there is a scene and there's a resurrection in life, courage will help you confront the stone that you need help with. God will have already worked it out before you show up on the scene, and God will have a messenger to let you know that what you think is not what's so. The messenger is often the man or woman of God who says he lives in your life, and you got to receive it. The word says that they were met with fear and trembling, and they said nothing. They were overwhelmed. They were psychologically baffled that something has taken place that the word and their minds cannot imagine. And that's a move of God in resurrection, to do what nobody believes can be done. Here, I got to go, but I got to share this with you. I got to tell you, I got to. They showed up, and they thought that what they had saw Friday was going to be what they witnessed on Sunday. Now, the question always has come, is it really 3 days? Yes. You do know that time that we count, and the days and the months and the calendar years that we use in the culture that we live in was different from the calendar and the time frame that they used in the first century when Jesus Christ lived, watch this, and was resurrected. The Jewish culture, the Jewish religion, actually counted days. I'm taking a little long because I need you to get this. They counted days differently. Friday actually began Thursday after the sun went down. So Thursday, that we call Thursday, when the sun goes down, Friday actually begins. And Friday, it will come from the sun down to the sun up on the next day. That's one day. He dies and spends one night in a grave Friday, one day. Saturday, sundown on Friday, that we call Friday, starts day 2. Saturday to the end of Saturday, when the sun goes down, completes day 2. Hello. That's 2 days according to the Jewish calendar. This is why he says, I'll be raised in 3 days. This is why the legend and the historical move of God has suggested it's 3 days. I'm giving it to you in the Jewish terminology, not in the Western culture. Western culture, he would have died on Thursday, spent Friday and Saturday, and raised up on the third day, which is the first day of the week, Sunday. In the Jewish culture, he's on day 2 when the sun goes down Saturday. Or when the sun goes down, when the sun goes down, as I stated, it begins the new day. So day 2, Saturday, in the grave. When the sun goes down Saturday night, day 3 begins in Jewish culture. And from Saturday night's sundown to the third day, hello somebody, Sunday morning, when the sun is risen in the air physically, the sun, S-O-N, has somehow risen from the dead in the physical and the natural. 3 days, Friday, Saturday, he rises Sunday. And as I would just love to hear my father say, early Sunday morning, somewhere between the time frame of midnight and 4 a.m., Jesus is shaken from his grave, from God above, and woke up and walks out of a tomb with all power in his hands. 3 days, and it takes place. God is willing to do what you and I cannot do. God is willing to do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. We have the responsibility of coming with courage to the scene of what is dead. And when we show up with courage at the scene of what is dead, we will see God do an unexpected thing. Beloved, there is so much power in this. There's so much power in the scenes of a resurrection. I hope that you've been blessed on this Resurrection Sunday. May God bless you, and may the power of God resurrect what you think is dead in your life. What dream, what hope has died. God says, bring courage and expect the unexpected. Happy Resurrection Sunday. May the peace of God be with you, and may the love of God abide with you as you walk through expecting resurrection power in your life. Take care. Hopefully, I'll see you next week.